Hello and hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Boss Talks. And I've decided I'm just giving up on LinkedIn Lives because it's not happening. So that's why you're now watching a video. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I'm so sorry if you were waiting for me to go live. Anyway, here we are. We work with what we've got. So hello, how is everyone? And today I have to say we're doing something really, really exciting. Well, exciting for me anyway. This is not just a LinkedIn Live. We are also at the same time recording the very first launch episode of my brand new podcast, The Human Discourse. This is my new baby. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be a platform where we share every week. So it's weekly episodes, and we share how to be more human in the workplace, how to bring your human into your own business, into your job, or even into your family space or in any sort of relationship. And as you know, the tool that I like to use, and that's also the topic of today's episode, is DISC. I absolutely love it. It's a simple language that we can all share, and we'll get into that later. So, on the podcast, which I'll share far and wide on here so you can't miss it, you will hear me tell you more about DISC, what it is, how it works, how you can use it, and so on. But I will also bring on a guest every week with a different DISC profile. So you can maybe, if you're joining in for more than one session, or you're into DISC already, you will hopefully hear a difference in the tone of the language, about the topics we cover, and so on. So first of all, if there are any topics you would like me to cover, then please let me know. And also, if you would like to be featured on the podcast, then let me know. You don't need to have a business, you don't need to have a certain career. I want real people, and we're talking about all things connection, about all things networking, how to network more efficiently, and just how to be a better person, really, because we all need more of that nowadays. So that's my mission. I want to make the world a better place. So now let's dive right into the DISC topic and what are we talking about? Because the problem is so often in human interaction, talking to other people, and I'm pretty sure you will have experienced that as well. There are just some people that don't get you, or you just don't understand why they keep doing this thing that drives you crazy. Or you maybe have a colleague that you just find so painful to understand, and you can't see why they do the things they do and so on. And then we make that mistake of assuming that the miscommunication is based on, well, maybe we chose the wrong words or maybe they weren't listening. So we put the blame of what's going on somewhere outside of our control, or we put it into the message, while what really matters is how we say it. It's how we say it and how the person we're interacting with receives it. Because your intention of putting something out there does not decide whether that is the intention the person you're talking to will receive it. So there is so much that goes on when we're receiving messages. So your brain at all times will analyze messages through our pace, through our comfort with risks. So some people you just sense they're really, really happy to take risks. You will some people will want more harmony in the way they talk as well. And it's actually so the statistics the statistics are that 93% of communication are non-verbal. So what you say and the words you choose to say something only matter by 7%. The rest is body language and tone of voice. And if you're now thinking, geez, how do I sort that out? Well, that's exactly how DISC comes in, and where DISC sits really, because DISC is not, so it's a system for behavioral preference. It's not a personality assessment. It's a system that gives us a framework to tell us how people are likely to respond in certain situations. And that's what makes it great. In various shapes and forms, the idea and the concept has been around for over 400 years. So this is not something that's new. And if you work in a company, your business probably would have done some DISC assessments or some similar frameworks in the past as well. But I think there is still so much communication around it. And I've spoken to clients of mine, they had done a DISC assessment with a previous coach or a previous consultant, but they failed to show them the depth to which DISC can absolutely revolutionize and change communication, especially in teams where people maybe you don't quite have a choice with who you're throwing into one room with. So in an environment like that, or even if you go to a networking event, having a framework and almost a guide of how to communicate with people will be really, really useful. So that's what I'm hoping we'll get across with these videos, but also the podcast. There is also a Substack on the same topic. So if you are into communication, if you are into understanding other people better, if you are into getting better results with clients, having more harmony at home, because let's face it, sometimes we miscommunicate with children, spouses, parents as well. So DISC really creeps into every fiber of your being, if you let it. And I have let it. So it is a bit like an obsession of mine now, as you might have seen if you've been on my social media feeds for longer than 5 minutes. So that's where we are. So what is DISC? It's a language of behavior. It's not a personality label. So I already said that. And a very, very quick overview. I'm going to try and share a whiteboard with you. When I tried it earlier, it didn't work, but hey ho, let's see. So this is the very, very basic framework of how DISC works. If you're listening to this on the podcast, and you have to imagine an area of 4 quadrants, and in every one of them, it has the letter D. Well, not in every one, but one of them has the letter D, one I, one S, one C. So that's immediately how you can tell where the name DISC comes from. And the quadrant works on the top. You have the styles that are a bit faster paced. They speak before they think. They are most likely to come out with something and then regret it later on. They do first and then think. They're also, it says on here, they're extrovert, but the truth is they just come across more extrovert because, as you might know, being extrovert or introvert, it just says where you get your energy from. So someone can be really outgoing in a networking event, but then they just need to go home and hide under their duvet for 2 days. So not extrovert in the sense of, oh, they love people, but it's the way they come across, because they talk quite fast, they come across quite confidently. When they speak, their language goes up and down, so there's intonation and so on, and they're just very lively when they talk. And on the bottom half of the quadrant, so on the other side of that spectrum, you have the more thoughtful types, and it says on there introvert, but again, that is just how they come across. So if you're talking about a team or a networking event, they won't be the ones that lead the conversation or that come in and say, hi, I'm here. That's all that means. So it doesn't mean that they don't like people. And then on the right side of the graph, you have the people focus, so people that love people and relationships. And on the other side, you have tasks, so people that like tasks and they want to get things done and they like challenges and results. So right, that's the graph explained for everyone who's listening to this. So the D, which stands for dominance, they are very fast. They're fast talking, fast acting. They just want results. They're very direct. So if you have someone in your life where you think, oh God, they're really blunt or really abrupt, chances are they're very high D. And then you have the I, so they are faster paced, but they are a lot more people focused. They are fast, they love people, they're very expressive, they use their hands when they talk. And yeah, someone said to me, they're the humanification of a ray of sunshine. So if you're ever having an off day, find yourself a high I because they will pick you up again. Then in the next quadrant, we have the S, and that stands for steadiness. And steadiness is such a beautiful word to describe this type because they are steady. They bring a steady pace. They bring people together. They're really supportive. They make sure that everyone's okay. They look after everyone. They remember people's birthdays, and they are just the glue that keep a team together. And then last but not least, we have the high C, or the C type, and they are your conscientious type. So they have a very steady pace, but they are more focused on tasks, and they're very precise. So they're very analytical, structural. They need numbers and figures. When they talk to you, they will talk in numbers and figures, and so on. And as you might have noticed, it keeps slipping in. I keep referring to high Ds and high Cs and high S's. And what that means is once you do a DISC assessment with me or any coach out there, you will get a graph that will tell you how much of each of those pillars applies to you. Because the truth is, we're not just one color, we are a blend of all of them. And sometimes the absence of one color, or the absence of or just the lower numbers of one of them will tell you more about yourself than being really, really high in another color. Now, I just realized I started talking about colors now. So the disc is one way to express it, but the D is also always represented in red. So when I say a red person, they are your high Ds. Then you have the yellow, that's the I. Again, it's that connection with the sunshine. So it's a really nice way to remember it. Then green, that's your S's, and blue, that's your C's. So I'll put that graph in the show notes for the podcast as well, so it's all there in one piece. And yeah, so now that we have this, can you imagine how misunderstandings just show up between those styles? Because they will. So for example, a high D, so someone who scores very highly in the D area, they will think, well, I'm being efficient, I'm being honest, and I'm just being clear. That's their take. That's how they will perceive themselves. But from the outside, others may experience that as harsh, impatient, incredibly impatient, and just dismissive. So the misunderstanding there is that the D just thinks, why is everyone around me so sensitive? While the others think, why are they so rude? So that is one example. But if we go around the graph, we have the high I's, so the influencer people, and they think from their inside, you know what, I'm building energy, I'm bringing connection, I'm bringing ideas, I'm just bubbling, I'm just really really happy all the time. But from the outside, others might perceive them as scattered and unfocused and just not serious because they're just so fun loving and loving life. Sometimes they can be perceived as they're not serious. So the yellow person thinks, oh, everyone's so negative and why are they so boring? And I just want to have fun. And other people look in on the other from the outside, and they just think, do they ever stop talking? So that's another example. And then we get to the high S's, and they think, from their point, they think, oh, I'm the one, I'm keeping things calm, I am steady, I keep it safe for everyone, and so on. While other people, they might just think, oh, they're a bit slow and they're resistant, because the high S's, they hate confrontation and conflict. So they can sometimes come across as a bit non-committal, they're a bit resistant. It feels like, well, you never quite know where you're at with them. So the S thinks, why is everyone around me rushing into chaos? Why is everyone losing their heads? And the other people think, why can they not just make a decision? So if you are someone who ponders on decisions for a very, very long time, then chances are you are possibly a S type as well. And then lastly, we have the C. So the C says to themselves, I make sure that everything is logical, everything is structural, everything works. I have tested it hundreds of times. This is safe, this is going to work. But other people from the outside, they might perceive them as critical or negative or just really picky as well. So here, the C things, why does no one care of getting it right? Why is everyone just, just be like meh? Well, others think, oh, do they really always have to find a problem? So, and you might have already in these examples might have thought of someone particular and thought, oh my God, maybe they're just that type, or maybe they're just that type. But other examples where this can just show up in real life, or be it at work, be it at home. So in business, for example, if you have someone in your life who just answers with a really, really quick, okay, answer, or you have tense meetings where you just feel something's just not quite right, or you leave a meeting that you've been in for 2 hours and everyone kind of thinks a decision has been made, but actually there was no decision, or poor hiring decisions, or bad fit in roles. Sometimes, or not sometimes, some managers, some bosses, they subconsciously or even consciously choose someone who is their disc type because they feel they can get along with them particularly well, but that might not be the perfect disc style for that person, for that role that you're looking for. So we'll go into that in another episode about which careers or which roles or tasks come most naturally to the other styles. And again, it's not like, oh, this color makes great sales managers, or this one should never be this role. It's about finding the right position within a role, within a business, or for that person. Because, as I said, DISC does not tell you anything about that person's character, whether they, like animals, what their political standpoint is, how confident they are, how tidy they are, how organized they are. So I've met some really, really high eyes who are supposed to be scattered, but they're really, really organized and they want to get things absolutely right because that's how they were brought up. Because DISC is a mix of nature and nurture. And when you take the assessment, you will see you'll get two results. You get a natural profile and you get your adapted profile. And your natural profile is the one that tends to be pretty steady throughout your life unless something changes you dramatically as well. And your adapted style, that's usually how you think you should be in a certain situation, how you want to be perceived in whatever state of mind you were when you took the assessment. So that one tends to change a little bit. Back to the examples of how DISC shows up in our lives and how understanding it can help us have smoother conversations, because you might have seen it in a parenting space. So maybe either you or your spouse, you disagreed on if you want to be more direct or if you want to be more gentle, if you want to raise your kids more structured or in a flexible way. That could be DISC at work, or the same, you might be clashing with your child, or you might have relationships where one person just wants to talk. They just need to talk their day through, while someone else is just like, you know what, don't want to hear about it. Yes, that as well could be DISC. So having an idea of how it works and how to adapt to other people can help you in so many scenarios. And all I want to say is, in most of the time, the problem is not that someone is wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that all problems out there in the world can be solved with DISC. No, there are people who you will just not get on with, who are just not nice people, who are not even trying to build a connection with you. But the problem usually is that your style collides with someone else's style. And that is not necessarily opposite styles, even though the ones that are diagonally opposites, they are most likely to clash. But having said that, clashes don't just happen with your opposite style. It could be someone that is the same style as you as well. So again, understanding DISC, how it works, will help make those decisions or decide, well, actually, they're really similar to me, and that's why we're not working. Or, oh my God, they're the opposite style, so I better do X, Y, Z to adapt to them. So how do you start using DISC as a behavioral language? Step one, start with yourself first. So if you've done any of my trainings before, I always start with self-reflection. Notice what you do before you start analyzing the people around you. So ask yourself, when are you the most, or when are you at your most you? So what do you tend to act like when you're under pressure or when you're leading? So when someone tasks you with leading a team or taking the lead on a project, or even, just planning the girls' trip or planning a holiday, what do you tend to do when that sort of responsibility is placed on you? Is that when you shine? Do you take control and say, yep, I've got this booked, I'm making that happen? Or you're a bit like, oh, we could go to Greece, but we also could go to France, or we could go to Italy. I don't know, what do you guys think? Just start noticing these things. And also, when are you relaxing? So where are you when you relax? And who is around you? What sort of people make you feel at ease? These are the things that you should start noticing. Just for next month's LinkedIn Live, just ask yourself those questions. So what is your natural behavior? What does it tend to do? Or if you're high D or high I, so if you're red or yellow and you just don't want to observe anything and you just want to know, then feel free to take the DISC assessment through my website as well. But but yeah, also think about the last time you were frustrated with someone. What were they doing? What were they saying? What were they assuming? And also, what were you saying and doing and assuming? Because so often we just assume that everyone thinks exactly like us. So instead of getting judgmental and simplifying it by saying, oh, they're just wrong or we just don't get on, use or get curious to find out what is it that that's going on. So every one of those styles, and we'll probably get into that in another episode as well, every one of those 4 styles is optimizing for something. So they all have a agenda, if you like, and a task to do, or a service to provide, if you like. So ask yourself, the person that you're talking to, what are they optimizing for? So if you have someone who's really almost like a drill instructor, or comes across really, really bossy, chances are they are like somewhere on that CD, so that blue-red border, where they're just really, really task focused. So they want to get the job done. They want to make sure everybody knows what they're doing. They have a very, very clear idea of how things has to be done. But because they lack that people element, they might come across really almost robotic, like a super highly efficient robot that makes sure stuff gets done, but without actually, considering, well, how might people perceive this? Am I stepping on someone's toes? So next time you have a conversation like this, or an interaction, or you notice something like this, or even when you're watching a movie, look out for what might those people that you can't understand, what might they be optimizing for? And once you know your own profile, you will start noticing it in other people as well. You can't help it. And then once you know yourself and you understand the system, you can start adapting to people. So you can meet people where they are at. And that's really, really useful when you're dealing with clients, when you're at home, when you're dealing with your boss, when you're at a networking event, mirroring other people, adapting to their language will get you so far instead of trying to get your point across the way you always have done. And it's not about pretending to be someone you're not. Absolutely not. 100%. Absolutely not. But you get to, because this is about behavior and behavior is a choice, you get to choose the best version of you. And yeah, I want to make sure that you know that this is a choice. So you can say, once you get your result, you can say, you know what, I'm a high S, I'm a high I, whatever you want to be. And then you can just leave it at that and just can say, you know what, take it or leave it. Or you could be like, well, is that a good thing? And it could be, but look at, does this serve you? Is this effective? Or would it make sense to maybe learn how to be a bit more blue or how to be a bit more green? And again, that is the choice you then have once you have that insight of knowing your style. And then you can almost start optimizing it. And again, it's not about becoming someone you're not, it's about optimizing yourself, optimizing your behavior, and especially without wanting to go into that topic too far now, or too deep, your natural and your adapted style, if they are too much in contrast. So if your adapted style, so the role that you have to take on when you go to work or when you meet clients or whatever the situation is that you did the assessment for, if you have to adapt too much to get to that place, it will drain you. And that in the long term is just not healthy. That's what leads to burnout. That's what leads to exhaustion as well. So knowing your style, looking at it critically, and seeing how you can optimize it, how you can tweak it, how you can just analyze it is absolutely crucial. So the thing is, we do not really understand each other. We are all different because we just assume that everyone's wired like us. I just this morning had a conversation with someone who declared high Ds, so the high reds, they are the best profile to have, and that's the only acceptable profile. That is just not true. Not if you ask any of the other three styles. So, but the truth is, we are all wired differently, and DISC gives us this language, a simple shared language that helps us describe what's going on inside us, but that also helps us understand other people's behavior. And then that helps us understand conversations and why things go off rail and why that didn't come across right and so on. So I understand this is a lot to take in a few minutes. And if you want to dive deeper into this and if you want to know your own DISC profile, which I absolutely invite you to do, because for me, when I had my first DISC assessment, it was like something unlocked inside of me and everything fell into place and made sense. But if you want your own DISC profile, if you want to dive deeper into all of this, I am hosting a workshop on next Thursday, the 27th of November. It's a 2-hour shortcut to understanding people. We'll go through your profile, what it means, how you can adapt, and then we go through every single of those types, look at their strengths, look at their weaknesses, and help you adapt to them. So that will improve how you talk to clients, how to talk to prospects, how to talk to team members, and so on. So if you are a business owner maybe, and you feel something's not quite right in your office, or if you're a small business owner and you find it really terrifying to walk into a networking room because you don't know how to talk to people, this will be the workshop for you. So I'll put all the info for tickets in the comment section. And yeah, so I think that wraps it up. The podcast episode that I've just recorded live here will be published on the 21st of November on Spotify. Again, I'll put the link out here. The podcast will be weekly, while this LinkedIn Live, or whatever format we'll decide to take, will be monthly. So if you want your weekly dose of disc, then either listen to the podcast if you're more the listening type, or as I said, there's also a Substack, which acts like a blog or a newsletter that lands straight in your inbox every week as well. So in the next 24 hours, because you know I like to take action, notice one moment of miscommunication around you. So it can be you and a conflict that you have with someone, or it can be, as I said, you're watching a movie, you're watching a show, whatever it is, watch that. So notice that, and instead of blaming one person, ask yourself, what was the problem here? What was the reason for this conflict? Was it the actual message, or was it the style it was said? And what I actually like to do, so that's a really, really lovely exercise to do as well. When you receive a message from, so this is super secret tip. When you say you receive a email from a colleague who you perceive to be passive aggressive, or always really short, always abrupt, or whatever, copy that message into ChatGPT and let it analyze it. And so often, and because ChatGPT is neutral and doesn't understand, all the, and doesn't have all the prehistory that you have with that person, and doesn't add all of that into your interpretation, it gives you a really, this is what the person said, this is what they probably meant, this is what their disc style is. And that in itself will hopefully help you improve your communication and take the emotion out of it a little bit, because so often, as I said, we put our own interpretation to what people say, and then we take it personally, potentially, and so on. So that's not the place to be. Right. And with that, I shall wrap it up. And if you are heading, so here's my teaser for my people who are watching this to head to the podcast, is because right now, right after this, I'm going to play the special disc song I wrote that also is the jingle of the podcast. So if you can't wait to hear it, then head over to Spotify to listen to it. If you are listening to this on Spotify, then here it is.